Hello everyone, this is Danchika Agarwal and today I am going to discuss on the topic Haccp, which is a food safety management tool. In this presentation, I am going to cover the introduction to Haccp, the different types of hazards that are associated with the food, history of Haccp, principle and steps, benefits and its conclusion. The word Haccp stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. In this hazards are the situation or the agents which are dangerous to health. Analysis refers to the investigation of the hazard. Critical is the crucial for the containment. Control are the handling or the operations of conditions. Points is the position in the processes. Haccp is a management system in which food safety is addressed through the analysis and control of biological, chemical, and physical hazards from raw material production, procurement, and handling to manufacturing, distribution, and consumption of the finished product. The Haccp system, which is a scientific based and systematic, and identifies the specific hazards and measures for their control to ensure the safety of the food. It is a tool to assess the hazard and establish the control system that focuses on the prevention rather than relying mainly on the end product testing. Any Haccp system is capable of accommodating change, such as if there is a need of equipment design, processing procedures, or the technological developments, and it has been recognized internationally. If the application of Haccp system can aid inspection by regulatory authorities and promote the international trade by increasing the confidence in food safety. The types of hazard that are associated with the food are physical, chemical, and microbiological. These hazards are potential to cause an adverse health effect on consumers' health. The physical hazards are those which are appeared to the naked eyes, like the glass packaging, jewelry, pest dropping, screw, nails, hairs, etc. Chemicals may include the food contact material, cleaning agents, pest control substances, contaminants, pesticide, insecticide that are being used during the production of the crop of the food product, the food additives. The microbiological include the bacteria, yeast, mold, and viruses. If we look upon the history, it goes to 1960s when the Pillsbury company was asked by the NASA to prepare the food for the space people, and there was a finding of the glass material in it. Then the Pillsbury, NASA, and United States Army implemented the food safety requirement for the United States space program. Then in 1964, the Pillsbury adopted the similar food safety requirements after a contamination of a glass piece. After the success of Pillsbury finding presented at National Conference on Food Production, the FDA proposed their idea to establish a critical hazard testing and training programs on canned foods. Then in 1972, 11-day training program was conducted, and further after their training, the FDA inspector officially published the canned food product regulation, and where this hazard analysis critical control point system was first published. Then in 1980s, the use of Haccp programs spreads throughout the food industry in US and Europe. Then in 1990s, Haccp was introduced in European Unions. In 1993, National Advisory Committee on Biological Criteria for Food revised the guidance, standards, and adding the 5 preliminary steps and 7 basic principles of Haccp that we will discuss on the further slides. In 1998, the requirement of all the food businesses to obtain a food and safety certification under the guidelines of Haccp. In 2000s, in 2000, the all this Haccp system was circulated among all the food business operators, and they were asked to use it to imply it whenever there is a production or the manufacturing of any of the food product in the food industry. When we look upon the logic sequence for the application of Haccp, the first 5 are the preliminary step and the rest 7 are the basic principles of Haccp that we will discuss now. If we look upon the 5 preliminary steps, the first step is assemble a Haccp team. This is the very basic task in developing a Haccp plan. To assemble a Haccp team, it consists of individuals who have specific knowledge and expertise appropriate to the product and process. It's a team responsibility to develop the Haccp plan. The team should be multidisciplinary and include the individual from areas such as engineering, production, sanitation, quality assurance, and food microbiology. It should also include the local personnel who are involved in the operation as they are more familiar with the variability and limitations of the operations. Then you have to describe the product. In the full description of the product should be drawn up, including the relevant safety information such as composition, physical and chemical structure. In chemical structure, it also includes the water activity, pH, etc. Then identify the intended use of the product. It should be based on the expected uses of the product by the end user or the consumers. In specific cases, vulnerable groups of the population, example institutional feedings, may have to be considered. The next step is there is a construction of the flow diagram that how the Haccp team will conduct the Haccp program. It should include all the steps in the operation. When applying a Haccp to a given operation, consideration should be given to step preceding and following the specified operation. There should be on-site confirmation of flow diagram, and this confirmation will be done by the Haccp team to verify the accuracy and completeness of the flow diagram. If there is a need of any of the modification, that is done on site itself. Once these 5 preliminary tasks has been completed, the 7 principles of Haccp are applied. The first principle is conduct the hazard analysis. The hazard team should enlist all the hazards that are associated with the process or the operation. The process can be primary production, processing, manufacturing, distribution until it reaches the consumption process. The Haccp team should conduct a hazard analysis to identify the Haccp plan, which hazards of such a nature and their elimination or reduction to acceptable level is essential to the production of a safe food. While conducting the hazard analysis, the following should be included, like the likely or occurrence of the hazard and its severity on the health of the consumers, the qualitative and quantitative evaluation on the presence of hazards, whether there is a chance of survival or multiplication of the microorganism, production or persistence in foods or toxins, chemicals or physical agents, the condition which can lead to the steps that I have mentioned before. The Haccp team must then consider what control measures they should take, that we will discuss in the next slide. The next principle is determine the critical control point. There can be more than one critical control point during the process. The determination of a CCP in the Haccp system can be facilitated by the application of a decision tree that I will show in the next slide. It indicates the logical reasoning approach. Application of a decision tree should be flexible, given whether the operation is for the production, slaughtering, processing, storage, distribution, or etc. This is the decision tree to identify the CCP. In this, when we start with the question 1, as per you get the answer yes or no, you will go to the next questionnaires. Then in the end, you will identify what is the CCP and what is not a CCP, and you will identify the CCP accordingly. If you find any of the CCP, then we have to establish the critical limits for each. Critical limit must be specified and validated if possible for each control points. In some cases, if there is more than critical limit, will be elaborated at a particular step. The criteria to include measurements of temperature, time, water activity, relative humidity, moisture level, chlorine, sensory evaluation, and etc. The next step is the monitoring system for each CCP. Monitoring is scheduled measurement or observation of a CCP to its critical limit. The main aim of the monitoring procedure is to detect the loss of control at the CCP. It should be ideally provide the information in time to make adjustment to ensure control of the process to prevent violating the critical limits. Where possible, process adjustment should made when monitoring results indicate a trend towards loss of control at a CCP. The adjustment should be taken before all while doing the monitoring process. All the data should be evaluated, and it should be done rapidly because they relate to the online processes and there will be no time for the lengthy analytical testing. All the physical, chemical and microbiological parameters must be taken care of, and the records and documents associated with monitoring CCP must be signed by the person who is doing the monitoring procedure. Specific corrective action must be taken for each CCP in the Haccp system in order to deal with the deviations when they occur. The actions must ensure that the CCP has been brought under the control. Next principle is establish the verification process. The verification process is very important. It includes the auditing and the verification, various procedures and tests. It includes the random sampling and analysis to determine if the Haccp system is working correctly or not. The different examples of verification activities include the review of the Haccp system and its records, review of the deviations if occurred, confirmation that CCPs are under control. The next and the last principle is establish the documentation and record keeping. Efficient record keeping and documentation is very important to the essential application of the Haccp system. Haccp procedure should be documented, and the documented examples are hazard analysis, CCP determination, critical control point, and the record examples are monitoring activities, deviations if occurred, and what are the corrective actions that we have taken regarding that deviation, and if there we have done any of the modification in the Haccp system. The benefits of Haccp to industry is it saves your business money for long run. It avoids the poisoning of consumers. Food safety standards are being increased. It ensures that there will not be any complaints from the consumers. It organizes your process to produce the safe food and staff promoting teamwork and efficiency. When we look in terms of the government, there is more efficient food control. Public health is being improved, which leads to the less expenses on the health domain of the government. It facilitates the international trade, and the benefits to consumer are we get the safe food, improve life quality of the food product, and there are less risk of foodborne illness diseases. The conclusion that we can draw from this PPT is Haccp is a preventive measure and include hazard identification and setting up measures to control and prevent those hazards. Haccp study focuses the thinking of everyone involved with the product on the details of the process and promotes a greater awareness of safety issue. Implementation of Haccp is a very important process, and it is not end in itself. It should be maintained, planned, and because it is going to benefit to everyone, whether it is industry, government or the consumers. A successful Haccp is accomplished by doing regular audits to check whether the industry is complying to the safety and sanitary procedures or not. These are the references. Thank you so much and have a great day.